Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Entrepreneur, and Uber has done the unthinkable today, and they have decided to put an end to forced arbitration if you're an individual. But before we get into today's topic, here's a word from our sponsors. And today's video is sponsored by Maximo, the rideshare automation app that allows drivers to safely and easily accept ride requests for Uber, Lyft, and Postmates. Whether you drive for a single platform or multiple platforms, Maximo's custom settings can help you drive more efficient, less distracted, and help you maximize your earnings. It will automatically accept one trip, turn off the other apps, and when your trip is over, it will end it, open the other apps, and accept the next trip, all without you having to touch your phone. Use referral code APP60 and get your first month free when you subscribe to Maximo. Well, everyone, I didn't think this was going to happen, but apparently Uber has had a change of heart. They have decided to end forced arbitration for victims of sexual assault in the Uber rides. Granted, there are some catches to this, the most notable being that this is only for individuals, not for class action lawsuits, because of course Uber's not going to completely put an end to something that, basically covers up they're doing something wrong. So according to TechCrunch, in a major policy change for its U.S. operations, Uber has announced it's ending mandatory arbitration for individual claims of sexual assault or sexual harassment by Uber drivers, riders, or employees. It is also ending the requirement that victims sign a confidentiality provision preventing them from speaking about the sexual assault or sexual harassment they suffered, saying survivors will now have the option to settle their claims with Uber without having to agree to being publicly silent in order to do so, which I want to add, that should always be the case. You should always have the right to sue your employer if they do something wrong or if something wrong happens at their hands. Uber's appallingly bad screening process, which does not include fingerprinting, does not go through the FBI system. Of course it invites these problems, but let's continue. Last month, a group of women alleging sexual violence from Uber drivers sent an open letter to the company's board asking to be released from the mandatory arbitration clause in the Uber's app's terms of service. Former Uber engineer Susan Fowler, who was instrumental in highlighting internal problems with sexual harassment and sexism at Uber when she blogged about her experience at the company last year, also urged CEO Dara K. I thought I would try to pronounce his name. I'm just not that comfortable yet doing so. To end the policy. And in a Twitter exchange in March, Dara signaled he was willing to consider ending forced arbitration. Quote, "I will take it seriously, but we have to take all of our constituents into consideration," he wrote to Fowler then. Concerns about safety in Uber's attitude to reported serious crimes were also among the reasons identified by London's transport regulator for withdrawing Uber's license to operate in the UK capital last September. Although safety transparency measures also being announced by Uber today appear limited to the US market for now, Uber has committed to publishing what it describes as a, quote, safety transparency report, which it says will include data on sexual assaults and other incidents that occur as a result of the activity on the platform. Announcing the moves in a blog post today entitled "Turning the Lights On," Uber's chief legal officer Tony West writes that the company has committed to doing, quote, the right thing. I'm being very, very sarcastic. Uber never does the right thing. Under its new CEO. A new attitude which requires three key elements: transparency, integrity, and accountability. Describing sexual violence as, quote, a huge problem globally, he continues, the last 18 months have exposed a silent epidemic of sexual assault and harassment that haunts every industry and every community. Uber is not immune in this deeply rooted problem, and we believe that it is up to us to be a big part of the solution. Commenting on Uber's policy changes to end mandatory arbitration, Jeannie Christensen, a partner at New York-based law firm Wigder LLP, which filed a class action lawsuit against Uber last year on behalf of women who said they were assaulted or raped by Uber drivers, described it as a critical step to, quote, reduce future suffering by women passengers. But she also flagged Uber's decision to not end forced arbitration for groups of victims acting on a class basis, saying this shows the company is not fully committed to meaningful change. And why would they? Because here's the thing. Most people who sue Uber, let's be honest, it's in a class action setting. It's usually not personal. People don't have that kind of money to just do it by themselves. But you get a bunch of people together in a class action lawsuit, that can go through easily. Those are the cases that will not be made public. And of course it makes sense because the individual who can't afford to sue Uber individually, their stories are not heard. So Uber is not concerned about their stories being heard by ending the forced arbitration. But the class action lawsuit, you can get a bunch of people together. All their stories can be heard. Uber is still very much afraid of that one. So, is there anything else? There's a lot of this, and I'll leave link to the link below. It should also be noted that Lyft, in solidarity with Uber, or maybe they're just copying them, I don't know, has also ended forced arbitration for individuals. They didn't even do anything better. And this is where Lyft should have, of course, been the bigger person. And Lyft has had many opportunities to beat Uber at their own game. They never do because they're cowards. They're absolute cowards. When this situation came up, Lyft should have forced the end arbitration right then. But they didn't. And so Uber does it first, thus giving off the impression that they are the good guys. Now, Lyft has aped them and said, we are going to take the step further. But they did the exact same thing Uber did. And Lyft could have taken it a step further. They would have said, hey, whether it be individual, class action, we don't care. We are committed to ending this. Uber will do a halfway measure to end this problem. We're going full force. Didn't do that either. And of course, it makes sense. Lyft will always do whatever Uber gets away with, and Uber is not going to end the forced arbitration on class action lawsuits because, again, there are so many people involved, and why would they do that? They do not want those stories heard. Yes, they've ended it for single individuals, but those individuals are very unlikely to ever say anything because they can't afford to sue them anyway. And since they can only afford to do class action lawsuits anyway for the most part, this forced and arbitration that comes to an end on an individual basis is effectively useless to them. So, yeah, Uber will only do what they have to do to stay ahead of the game. And they looked at the situation, and this is a way to get people off their backs. Like, hey, we did what you said. We ended the forced arbitration for individuals, and we are committed to doing the right thing for our passengers in the future for individuals. And so that's where we are. And it's interesting because a lot of the media, it does not appear to be buying this. I've read several articles on this, and I picked the TechCrunch article because, frankly, it's free and anyone can read it, and the other ones you kind of got to pay for. But they're all in the same boat, that by ending the forced arbitration for the individuals, but not the groups, means that Uber has not changed. They are giving off the appearance of change, and if you want real change, well, you're going to have to go to the Catholic Church, I guess, because that's where real change happens. Anyway, that's not a slight against people with religion. It's, you know, tradition. Anyway, sponsored video. I hope they don't regret their sponsorships. But anyway, what do you folks think? Let's pass it on to you. Do you think this is a step in the right direction? Do you think it's not? Are you happy with it? Or are you not happy? Heck, do some of you feel like you're not happy with this in total, but you feel it's at least somewhat moving the needle? I would love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy the videos I make, consider becoming a Patreon member for as little as $1 a month, or even becoming a sponsor. Business email is below. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.